I read 14 books in the last 2 months, so let's talk about them all. Since we have officially entered spooky season, I'm going to start with the mystery books first. The first 2 books I'm going to talk about are Good Girl, Bad Blood and As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. These are the second and third books to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. 5 years prior to when these books take place, a very popular teenager was murdered by her boyfriend. But Pip investigates this case and sees that some of the pieces don't quite fit as well as they should, and she is convinced that the boyfriend did not actually kill the teenager 5 years prior. So this trilogy is like a YA murder mystery trilogy, and I really enjoyed it for the most part. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I loved it. So this book looks at a slightly different case than this one, but like everything is connected. This is a continuation of Pip's story, and there's a different mystery in here, and I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun reading this, but at the same time, I read this when I was like in a reading slump, and it didn't pull me out. But at the same time, I think this is like a really good book, so I gave it 4.5. And then I read this one, and I hated it. This is kind of an unpopular opinion because I think a lot of people really like this book, but I think I gave it 2 stars. The first half of this book is like the other 2 books in the series, and I was like, this is amazing. It's another mystery that Pip is trying to solve, and it's like so sweet. And then like the second half happens, and it was so out of pocket. And then next thing you know, you're questioning your morals. A lot of people really like this book. I'm just not one of them. I wasn't the biggest fan of this ending, but at the same time, I really like the series overall. I really liked these 2 books, so I was like, of course I have to finish the series and read this. And I would say if you want to like wrap up this series, might as well pick up the 3rd book. I didn't like the ending though, and that just makes me mad at the series. Anyway, another mystery book I read was The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 4th book in the Inheritance Games series, which is another YA mystery series. But the Inheritance Games, I feel like it focuses more on riddles rather than like murder. But the synopsis of the series is Tobias Hawthorne is a billionaire with a B, like has a lot of money, okay? And he dies. And instead of leaving all of his money to his family, like one does, he leaves it to a stranger that is a teenage girl that he's never met before. That teenage girl has to live in the mansion with the family for a year to actually get her inheritance. So the mystery of the book is just trying to figure out why he left her all of his money. And there's also like a little love triangle in the books, and I really like the world. It gives off like that dark academia vibe to it. And I feel like YA mysteries are always just really fun. I gave the first 2 books 5 stars, and the 3rd and the 4th book 4 stars. I think my taste in books has changed since I read the first 3 books. But I still like really just love this world. And like immediately when I started reading it, I was like, oh, comfort world right here. Like it's so fun, and I really adore all of the characters. I just love the Hawthorne brothers, and this is called The Brothers Hawthorne, so yes. Anyway, the first 3 books are in Avery's point of view, and this is the 4th book, which is a spin-off. But this is in Grayson and Jameson's point of view. Those were the 2 brothers that were involved in the love triangle. I think Ginny's books are just a fun time, and I would definitely recommend them because they're just so great. Alrighty, now I'm gonna move on to the fantasy books I read. I read Fourth Wing in August. I gave this book a 4.5 stars, okay? I don't have a good reason as to why I didn't give it a 5-star, just that it doesn't feel like a 5-star read. I don't know, the pacing was a little weird. But this is probably like the most hyped up book of the summer. This is a fantasy romance where people are trying to survive and ride dragons, and I really don't know how to explain it any better than that. It kinda is like How to Train Your Dragon meets Divergent. I love the MMC in this, and I think you will too if you read this. If you don't, I would actually be shocked, and I would probably ask you to explain to me why you didn't like him. This book is rated a 4.65 on Goodreads. That is almost unheard of. Like, this book is just really good and everybody loves it. And so if you're like, should I read Fourth Wing? Try it out. Another fantasy romance I read recently was A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kimmerer. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And I love Beauty and the Beast, so I was like, oh yes, can't wait to read this. I ended up rating this a 3 stars. This was YA. I feel like usually YA fantasy is like so fun and easy to read, and it's usually more fast-paced, but this was not fast-paced at all, and I was getting a little bit bored. I feel like not much happens in this book. I also didn't feel like very attached to the characters, and so when something super dramatic happens, I low-key did not care. But my friend Eden loves this book. So there's kind of two sides of the spectrum. I've seen a couple of people say that they absolutely love this book and would do anything to read it for the first time again. I personally am not one of those people, and I will not be continuing with the series because this book ends in a cliffhanger, but I simply do not care about what else will happen. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but in this case, the beauty lives in the real world, and like the beast is in a fantasy world, and he sort of takes her out of the real world. And I liked that idea a lot, but I think if you're gonna read a Beauty and the Beast retelling, I would recommend ACOTAR. But that's the only other Beauty and the Beast retelling I've read, so I'm sure there's probably others out there, but... Another fantasy romance I read recently was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mehrer. This book has so many good lines in it. Like, I was kicking my feet reading this. I loved it, I loved it, I loved it until the end happened, and I was like, no! Like, you gotta be kidding me. That end was awful. So I gave this book 3 stars as well. The idea of this book is that our main character, Evie, needs a job, and she stumbles upon someone named the Villain, and he offers her a job, but she can't like really tell anyone what her job is, because she's like a normal girl, but she's like working for the villain, the evil guy. But it's all fun because, you know, romance and morally great male main characters. I don't know, it's so cute. But then the ending happens, and I felt like the ending was a little bit rushed. And so I feel like to like really like a book, you have to like the ending, and I didn't like the ending, so that's why it's like a 3-star. Anyway, moving on. I read another really hyped up fantasy romance, Divine Rivals. I loved this. This was incredible. This was a 5-star read. I had to read this for my book club, and people tried to taint my mind into believing this book isn't perfection. And someone rated this book 2 stars in my book club. So it's not that I think they don't deserve an opinion. It's that I believe their opinion is wrong. This is another YA book. The setting gives off like 19th century London, but it's not London because this is a made up place because there is magical buildings and magical typewriters. And I wouldn't say it's enemies to lovers. A lot of people call it enemies to lovers, but they're rivals. It's for a job. They don't like want to kill each other. It's just that the 2 main characters want the same job. They want the same promotion. So basically what's going on though is that our main character, Iris's brother, went off to war. But she has a magical typewriter, okay? And she thinks she is magically sending letters to her brother who is away at war, who she cannot talk to. But those letters are going to her rival. Ooh. And then, you know, drama and war and a whole bunch of stuff happens. And it's amazing, and this book is a 5-star read, and it's just incredible and show-stopping, and you should read it, honestly. Alright, now it's time to just move on to the romance genre. Kiss the Sky by Kristen Becca Ritchie. This book is incredible! We have another 5-star read. This book is so good. I love every book in the Addicted series. This is actually the first book in the Calloway Sisters series, which is like a little spin-off of the Addicted series, but they're all intertwined. So this is the first book in the Calloway Sisters series / the 4th book in the Addicted series. These 6 main characters in these books just feel like such real people. And I'm like, man, they're so real, and all of their problems are also my problems. And if they cry, I will cry. If they're happy, I'm happy. It's just they feel so real. So I'll give you a little synopsis of the Addicted series. 2 best friends. One's an alcoholic, one's a sex addict. They are fake dating to cover their addictions up so no one else knows except for those 2. And they try to control the addictions, and then there's just so much going on, and there's like found family, and then there's like real family, and there's love, and there's just so much going on, and I just... Oh, and they're rich. They're all like stupid rich. which is amazing. I love rich people problems because they're not worrying about the same things I am. So then I'm just like escaping my world and going into theirs. And I love their world. Even though their world hurts me sometimes. I love it. Next book, The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I also gave this book 3 stars. It's just your really cute rom-com that you know exactly what you're getting out of it. I just thought that the characters were very cringy. And they weren't my favorite characters, but like it's that like cheesy story you know you're gonna get. So like it's not bad, but it's also like not the best thing I've ever read. We have 2 besties that have been besties for a long time. She is a poor dance teacher and he is in the NFL. And he's like one of the most wanted players. He's Travis Kelce or Joe Burrow or whoever you want to pretend he is. He's like nice looking and he's in the NFL and you know, got babes and money. She doesn't have any of that. But they're friends. Friends to lovers, you know. You know. The last 5 books I read were The Risk, Sidetracked, Scarlet Angel, All the Lies, and Painted All Red. I gave books 1, 2, 3, and 5 4 stars, and I gave book 4 5 stars in this series. So this series is a dark romance series between an FBI agent and a serial killer that he is trying to catch. And it's crazy how perfect these characters are for each other. They are just so good together. But like at the same time, she has to keep her secret and not let him know that she's a serial killer, or else like, then what? Like you're just gonna tell your FBI agent boyfriend that you like to kill people for fun? Like what happens then? Does it have a happy ending? Does it have a sad ending? But this was quite the read. Quite the read. A couple of graphic scenes that I was like, oh! Okay. You like might want to check the trigger warnings to this because there's some things that happen that are like not very swaggy. These are like really quick reads. I was gonna say quick and easy reads. I wouldn't say they're easy, but they're very quick, and I enjoyed this series a lot. And I think our female main character will sort of stick with me, and I'm just gonna be thinking about her for a little while, which is a good and a bad thing because like, I mean, she murders people. I don't really want to be like thinking about that all the time, but at the same time, you understand why she does. Not to say you should ever murder people, but like you understand why. I don't know. Anyway, those were all the books I read recently. So if you like this video and you want to leave a like or comment or subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. And I will see you so soon, besties. Well, the plan is to see you soon. If I don't, blame my professors. Anyway, bye.